Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar presented by EquiLeave on something we are really excited about, and that is the new EquiLeave AI bot that we have launched in the OpenAI store. We are super excited here in January 2024 to be one of the first companies to put artificial intelligence HR tools into OpenAI's platform. We think that it's going to be an awesome resource for leave professionals, for HR professionals, for payroll professionals to supplement the tools that we're working on at EquiLeave. So what we want to do in this video is walk you through our new EquiLeave AI feature, which you can check out as of today in the App Store with OpenAI. So just a quick disclaimer before we get started. Of course, AI is a new and emerging technology. We're all still figuring out what AI means for our workplaces and the work that we do and how we can leverage it to promote our company's values, mission, and objectives. So we hope that the EquiLeave AI tool is going to enable you to do that. But of course, the EquiLeave AI tool and all of our other tools are not providing legal or other advice on which you necessarily should rely without checking with your own attorneys or advisors first. So make sure that you do that. But we hope, again, as we'll show you today, that this EquiLeave AI tool is going to be really valuable for your tech stack. And again, you can access it in the OpenAI store once you get an OpenAI subscription. So to access EquiLeave AI, all you're going to do is navigate to our homepage at EquiLeave.com, and we've got a link there right at the top for the new EquiLeave AI tool. You can go to that page and read about everything you can do with it and how great it is. And there's a link on that page to visit the OpenAI store to learn more. And that link will take you to OpenAI where you can visit our tool. And so this is EquiLeave AI, our LLM that we have developed to, again, assist with your leave administration. And like other AI bots that you've probably seen, this one can do all sorts of different things. It can write policies for you. So say you need help writing, a new policy for employees about a new leave law or a new time off law. The EquiLeave AI bot can help you do that if you enter the right prompt. It can help draft communications to individual employees, explaining to them what their leave rights are or what's going to happen with a leave of absence request or, asking them to return to work, all sorts of day-to-day stuff that you might be communicating to team members, the EquiLeave AI bot can help with. It can answer basic questions about kind of what leave entitlements might be out there. So say, you're operating in a bunch of different states and you don't know all the state laws out there, right? That's one of those things that's super hard to keep track of in the United States since we have this patchwork of leave laws, as we all know, right? There's not many federal ones. The real action is at the state level, where certain states are passing new time off entitlements. It seems like every day. It's really hard to keep up with. But with EquiLeave AI, you can ask about specific potential entitlements so that you can start exploring what might be out there and what might apply. So we're just going to play around with EquiLeave AI on this webinar and go over and show you the kind of things that it might be able to do for your company. And again, it's all subject to that disclaimer I said at the beginning. But let's just start with an employee communication. One thing leave administrators have to spend a lot of time doing is communicating with employees. And that can be delicate, right? Because this is about something sensitive, their time away from work. And so leave administrators often want to be candid with people about what their entitlements are, about what the company can and cannot do. That takes empathy. That takes being upfront sometimes in a way that can be pleasant or unpleasant, depending on what the company's decision is. But let's say you're a leave administrator and you have a situation where you want to convey to an employee that, hey, you're not eligible for FMLA yet because you haven't worked here for a year. So maybe this is a situation where an employee says, hey, I need time off to bond with a child and I need 12 weeks. And you say, well, unfortunately, you've only worked here for 6 months. So you're not going to be eligible for FMLA. Well, you might want some help drafting that communication. EquiLeave AI may be able to assist with that. So let's ask EquiLeave AI to do it. All you're going to do is click into the box at the bottom of the page and then say something like, can you draft an email to an employee explaining their FMLA leave request has been denied because they have only worked at the company for 3 months. Boom. Let's see what it does. So it's thinking, it's coming up with a chat to us, and here it goes. It gives us a subject regarding your FML leave request. And then it says, Dear employee name, I hope this message finds you well. I'm writing to you regarding the Family and Medical Leave Act request that you submitted recently. First and foremost, I want to express our commitment to supporting our employees through their various life stages and challenges. It is always our intention to provide assistance and understanding wherever possible. And then the letter goes into explaining that the company regrets to inform the employee that they are unable to approve the leave request. And what's nice is that the letter doesn't just stop there, it explains to the employee, hey, this is when you become eligible. And look at that. It cites all three eligibility requirements there that the employee has to have worked 12 months, 1,250 hours during the 12 months immediately preceding the leave. It doesn't actually cite the 50/75 requirement, but we didn't tell it to. It didn't need to do that. We didn't tell it that was an issue. And then it says, hey, per our records, you've been a valued team member for 3 months. And then it says, while we truly understand and empathize with your current situation, we must adhere to the federal guidelines that govern FMLA leave. This adherence ensures fairness and compliance across our organization. The next paragraph says, we recognize this might be a challenging time for you, and we want to ensure that you are aware of other possible options that may be available. There may be other types of leave or support we can offer. I'd be willing to discuss that. And so, what's so great about that paragraph is, as many leave administrators know, someone might not be eligible for FMLA, but maybe they're eligible for leave under a state law, or maybe they have a disability and could be eligible for leave under the ADA. So that's a great paragraph to include for compliance. And so what EquiLeave has prepared here for us is a really good communication. It's again explaining up front that we are empathetic, that we care about the employee. In the second paragraph, it's being super candid about how we cannot grant their FMLA request. It explains what the requirements are for someone to be eligible for FMLA. And then the third paragraph, it says, hey, this is why we think you're not eligible for FMLA. Why is that really important? Because again, you want to put that in front of the employee and explain things. You don't want to just tell the employee, hey, your request is denied, game over, we're done talking, right? You want to explain it, because if you're wrong, this paragraph gives the employee the opportunity to come back and say, well, wait a minute, actually, I had a previous stint of employment with the company. I worked here a bit earlier, and I have worked for more than 12 months. Well, you might need to look at that, and you might need to say, gosh, does that 12-month requirement need to be consecutive? And in that situation, that's something that you would want to know before making a final decision on the leap. And so this documents things really, really well. And then the email gets empathetic again. It says, we understand this is a challenging time. We know there might be alternative types of leave or support we can offer. That's a fantastic sentence. Why? Because leave might be a reasonable accommodation. There might be a state law that applies. And so, by inviting the employee to discuss it further, that opens up the compliance opportunity to make sure that you are providing, the leave that you're required to under your policies and under the law and as a reasonable accommodation. And so, this is a pretty good email and could be a good template that you use for multiple situations. And as you can see at the bottom, it prompts you to enter, the information for you and your position at the company. Now, let's get a little bit more technical. Like, I just thought of this question as I was giving this example a minute ago. What if we asked EquiLeave AI, and I hope this works because I'm trying it for the first time in front of all of you. So this is a good test of its limits. Remember how I said the FMLA eligibility requirement is that the person has to have worked at the company for 12 months, but the 12 months doesn't necessarily need to be consecutive. they need to have worked there for 12 months, usually within like the last 7 years. So let's just ask OpenAI, if an employee has worked for an employer for 12 total months over the last 2 years, but not consecutively, can the employee be eligible for FMLA? Pretty complicated question. Let's see what it does with it. It's thinking, yes, and it got it right. It tells us the employee could be eligible. So if you have a tricky question like that, it may point you to what the legal requirement is. And again, you should test this and check it to make sure it's right. But what I love about this answer that it gave, as you see, is not only does it tell you, yes, that employee could be eligible, but it reminds you of the two other eligibility requirements, the 1,250-hour requirement and the 50 employees within a 75-mile radius requirement. So this is a really great example of how EquiLeaveAI can draft a communication for you. And then if you face a tricky situation, it might be able to pull some information that could answer a question and point you in the right direction. So think about how you might use that in your organization. I would challenge everyone on this call, go over to EquiLeaveAI, have it draft a communication that you might find tricky sometimes, and think about how you can use this to be empathetic with employees, to promote compliance, and to get basic information as you seek to promote good leave practices within your organization. Let's stick with that employee who hasn't worked with the company for an entire year. So, as you know, if an employee hasn't worked for 12 months yet, they're probably not going to be eligible for FMLA. And we just, kind of dove into that 12-month requirement a bit. What if we asked ChatGPT, hey, or EquiLeaveAI, what if an employee has worked at the company for 8 months and requests to take an FMLA medical leave to begin after 13 months of employment? Will the employee be eligible for FMLA? If I can spell eligible for FMLA. See what it says about that one. And it's thinking, yes. And again, it's right. So it gives the eligibility requirements again so that you can know that. Now, let's say the employee, you're thinking about that employee who hasn't worked there for a year and isn't going to be eligible for FMLA because they want leave right away. Well, as you know, one of the difficulties for multiple state employers operating in multiple states is that, the state that the employee is in could have a law that provides some kind of time off entitlement earlier than the FMLA would. So the employee might not be eligible for FMLA, but they could be eligible for leave under some kind of state law, or again, as a reasonable accommodation under the ADA. And so let's see how EquiLeave handles that, because if you're like a lot of us, you probably haven't memorized all those state laws. You probably have to go check every time, an employee in a particular state wants leave. You want to check to see, hey, do I need to, give the employee forms or, for that state, or do I need to check on whether they're eligible, for leave in that particular state. So let's say an employee in Connecticut has only worked at your company for 6 months and, needs a medical leave of absence. Is there, any law in Connecticut that might provide some kind of leave entitlement for that employee? So if an employee in Connecticut, oh gosh, can't spell, Connecticut, needs a medical leave of absence, but has only worked for the employer for 6 months, is there a law that might provide a right for the employee to take leave? Let's find out. I don't know. So EquiLeave is thinking, it's looking, and then it's going to be typing. Okay, so what it tells us is first that if an employee in Connecticut needs a medical leave of absence but has only worked for 6 months, they would not be eligible for leave under the FMLA, which requires 12 months of employment. Well, we know that. Okay, so it goes on to tell us Connecticut has its own state specific leave laws that might provide coverage in this situation. Okay, that's exactly what we were looking for. Let's see what it says about it. It tells us that as of 2022, Connecticut now has its own Paid Family Medical Leave Act. Uh-oh, okay, so that's a new one. Employees are eligible if they have earned at least 2,325 in the highest earning quarter of the first four of the five most recent quarters. There is no minimum duration of employment with the current employer required. Okay, so now we know that this employee could take leave under the Connecticut law, even though they aren't eligible for FMLA yet and they aren't going to be exhausting FMLA yet. So that's something that you need to look into more to see whether it applies, right? And maybe you could ask it more questions, or you could, you know, go to the Connecticut website for more information. But at least now, EquiLeave has helped you spot this issue. What you wouldn't want to have done is just said, well, FMLA doesn't apply to you, and we don't think it's a reasonable accommodation, so we're denying you leave. That wouldn't be good without looking into this, whatever this Connecticut law is, right? This new PFML law that was passed in 2022, and seeing whether that applies. And so, as you can see, EquiLeave kind of helped you spot that issue and look into it more. And you could ask it more questions about that, if you needed it to extract more information that might help you decide, how ultimately to make a decision with respect to that employee's leave request. And so, you might ask it, are there specific forms I should use to provide, um, you know, Connecticut paid family leave to an employee? See what it says. It's thinking, and then it's going to be typing. So it tells us that PFML is managed by the Connecticut Paid Leave Authority. To provide it, specific forms and procedures should be followed. And then it tells you about kind of all these different types of requirements and forms that you might want to be aware of, and gives you a hint that, hey, you might want to check out the website for that Connecticut Paid Leave Authority, to see what they have and what kind of resources that they may have, including the forms. So for the most current forms and instructions, visit their website, which is great. So again, it's pointing you in that direction so that you can try to comply with those state laws. And again, the reason this is so powerful is because, as we know, managing leave in all 50 states is probably one of the toughest things an HR professional has to do. It's just impossible to keep up with all these laws and all these forms and all the different state requirements. But with EquiLeaveAI, it's at least going to help you kind of stay on top of it. Let's move to paid parental leave, because that's what we kind of specialize in at EquiLeave. That's what we're big on, is helping employers manage their paid parental leave policies and the payroll aspects of that, and coming up with pay plans for employees. And so, as we know, California has a paid family leave law that provides some government benefits to California employees who go on a paid family leave, but it very rarely, almost never, will pay 100% of the employee's salary. So employers, in states like that, may want to supplement the employee's leave so they can get their regular pay. But you don't want to just keep paying them their regular pay, because the regular pay plus the government benefits would be too much money. Then they're getting paid more when they're on leave. And actually, the laws often don't allow that. But let's say we want to just check on, whether a company can supplement, California paid family leave benefits, supplement. So let's ask it, can our company supplement California paid family leave benefits for an employee who is on parental leave? Is that allowed? What does EquiLeaveAI say about that? It's thinking. It's going to let us know. And it says yes directly. You absolutely can. Here's how it works. And so it tells you that California is going to give that partial wage replacement, and that you can supplement it, that you're totally welcome to do that. And we explain on the EquiLeave website that that can be really important to do for equity. The EquiLeaveAI here advises you that you should have a clear policy on this, explaining how you supplement up to 100% of regular earnings and how your supplementation coordinates with PFL, the kind of documentation and expectations and all sorts of stuff. And so let's say, okay, I want to have that policy. I want our company to supplement those California payments so that when people are on parental leave, they're getting their regular salary. Well, okay, we can do that. So before, that kind of process would probably take like a whole day, right? You'd have to go kind of research things on the California website, and you'd have to write it up, and then you wouldn't like your first draft. You want to sleep on it, and you do it the next day, and then you pass it to somebody else, and they use a totally different style than you. So it gets edited a ton. Well, let's see, um, how EquiLeave might be able to help us here. So let's say to EquiLeave, can you draft a policy explaining to California employees that during a parental leave, the company will supplement the benefits they receive from CA-PFL? Let's see how it does with that. Let's see if it can draft a policy for us. Oh, it says certainly, not just yes this time, but certainly. And look, it is starting to draft the policy as we speak, and it's done it in the form of an announcement to employees, which you probably want to do, right? To be generous to them and let them know how generous you are. And so it's drafting a policy here a lot quicker than I can type, that's for sure. Um, and it explains. I love it's got some like language up top that adds some flourish that we're pleased to announce this new policy because we support our employees during significant life events. One criticism I sometimes have of like template policies you get from agencies or organizations or law firms is that they can be kind of they sound like a machine wrote it. And funny enough, with EquiLeave AI, it's not going to sound like a machine wrote it. It's going to sound like a human wrote it. Sometimes it's going to sound more human than the lawyers who might draft these policies. So the idea is to make it, plain language, and you can obviously modify this stuff to reflect your own culture, but it can give you a good start. And so it gives you a policy overview. It recommends a section on eligibility. If you hadn't thought of that, you might want to think about, hey, what are the eligibility requirements for this? Like, is everyone going to get it? Is not everyone going to get it? Is there going to be a waiting period for the supplemental benefit? How's that going to work? And then, it explains how you're going to calculate the pay. It explains that it's not going to include overtime, bonuses, or variable pay, which is totally fair to do. And explains the duration of the pay. And look, it even gives you a place to write in the number of weeks. California provides right now 8 weeks of PFL payments. So maybe you want to line up your policy with that. Maybe you provide 12 weeks, right? Maybe you provide 6 weeks of supplemental benefits. You can do whatever you want with supplemental pay. There's no requirement. Gives you, kind of the boilerplate sections here explaining that this is taxable. Unfortunately, the government gets their fair share, and it gives you some contact information so that you can get in touch with someone who can help. So as you can see, and then it recommends at the bottom, hey, make sure to tailor this, which of course is always a good idea. But as you can see, with the click of a button, EquiLeaveAI prepared something that otherwise might take a bit of a long time and a bit of coordination and a bit of thought in a way that should speed things up and get the process going for your company. Again, this would require some supplementation. You need to, figure out what are the eligibility requirements, what's right for your company, what kind of introduction do you want to put to, make people feel welcome at your company and like you support them. Is it accurately describing how you're going to calculate the supplemental pay? Of course, you got to fill in names, but as you can see, this is a great kind of skeleton to get started with. That's really got some meat on its bones, and substance to it. And so you can ask EquiLeaveAI to do um, other things like that. So this was just again a quick demo of something we're really excited about. We're watching AI very closely and how we can leverage it, and wanted to have this out there right as the Open AI store opened, and we were thrilled to do that and to get it launched. So we hope that you enjoy testing this out. Please send us your feedback. You can email us anytime at like admin@equileave.com, and we'll respond and would love to hear how this works for you. If you notice something that you don't like, we'd love to know that too. So please get in touch with us about this. Use it as kind of an extra leave assistant at your company. And we hope that, this tool that we've created for you really helps you further our mission of empowering employers who provide leave benefits to their employees. We're confident that it will. So thank you for joining us on this webinar about the new EquiLeave AI tool that we've launched. We can't wait to hear from you about it and to continue developing tools that will achieve our mission of making leave accessible to everyone and empowering employers who provide it to their employees. All right. So thanks, everybody. We will see you again soon.